There she blows. I'm so sorry. But today I'm going to review the Noodler's Ahab. The Ahab Flux Pen is a pen produced by Noodler's Ink. Noodler's Ink is a company that normally produces fountain pen inks. They produce inks in a variety of colors, very vibrant inks, inks with interesting qualities. They will have intense shading or change color or things like that. But they also produce some fountain pens. Nathan Tardif, the founder's philosophy on fountain pens is that they should be affordable and anybody should be able to do any maintenance on them. And I really respond to that. This pen is kind of the culmination of that. This is their steel nibbed flux pen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the pieces of the pen. I'm going to talk about them a bit. I'm going to point out some of the tweaking and maintenance you can do to this pen while I do that. I'm going to give it some ratings out of 5. I'm going to rate the design, the comfort, and the writing experience. And then I'm going to do a writing sample, and then we'll be done. Before I go on, I'm just going to say that there were stories from lots of people that they had issues with their pen. Their pens arrived and they didn't write, and some of those people were able to fix their pens using the tweaking methods that I'll show you, and some of them, their pen just never did write. I can't speak to that. That was not my experience. My experience was that this pen wrote really well from the beginning, and any tweaking I did was just to customize it a bit to my own style of drawing, because that's generally what I use this pen for. So, onto the pieces of the pen. So these are the parts of the pen. The pen is a cigar shape. It is this nice silver color, kind of a slate silver. This one is called Morgan silver. It has some swirls through it, and just kind of interesting to look at. Cigar shape design. Let's look at the cap. So the cap is shaped kind of like a bullet. It has a nice clip, and example of how these pens are almost completely disassemblable. Disassemble, if that's the word. The clip comes right off, can be replaced or repaired, put it back on, and there you go. The clip is in a stylized shape of a whale. That's intentional. It's keeping with the nautical theme of this pen. It says Noodler's Ink on it. Very basic. Has a metal band here that says Noodler's Ink across there. Looks like 3 bands, but it's actually just 1. Now mine, I don't know if you can see just a little bit of yellow there. That is where the silver covering has come off this metal ring. So that's a quality control issue, because it was like that when it came out of the box, which is kind of disappointing. If this pen was much more expensive, I'd be much more upset about it. As it is, it's just something I don't really love. The barrel is a good size. Now the thing about this barrel is that it is one solid piece of plastic. I often say whether or not pens can and cannot be turned to eyedroppers. This pen can, and it's one of the things that Nathan thought about when he designed it. He assumed people would like to turn into an eyedropper, and so it has that capability. And when you do, this holds an insane amount of ink. I had it as an eyedropper for a while when I first got it, and I was filling it up with black ink for drawing. And I like it like that because you can go and go and go and draw and draw and draw. The only thing was when the ink got a bit lower, it had a tendency to blurt out ink. And that was because the air bubble in here would warm up from the heat of my hand, expand the air, and push the ink out. So you just basically have to keep it full. And that's as simple as that. But I switch back to the converter. Speaking of the converter, this has an elegant little filling system. It's full right now, so I can't do it, but this basically plunges down and you plunge it out, and it pulls the ink in like a syringe. You do that a couple of times, it fills not only this chamber, but the handle, and that handle is like another probably another page and a half of writing at least, even if you're flexing. This actually originally came with a rubber O-ring that sat right here to help with sealing, and you can use that same O-ring, move it up here to make it the eyedropper. I actually broke that O-ring, but what you can do is just go down to a hardware store and buy a new one, or you can order them from Noodler's Inc. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. I probably will eventually. But this just works really nicely, super simple. To disassemble it, you just unscrew this little black knob, push the plunger out. You can put silicone grease around it to make it move easier, or you can replace the little rubber O-ring that's in there that creates the seal. Completely serviceable, completely maintainable, keeping in with the design concept of the pen. Then you get the section. Pretty simple, steps in, but it is a good size for holding, especially because to make this pen flex, you have to actually give it some pressure. And you get a nice good grip with this. And it fits in my hand nicely, nice and big. This cap does post, but it is ridiculously big. It doesn't even fit into the camera thing that I have right now. So I know I never do that. Then we come to this nib. This nib says Noodler's Ink Co. on it. It has no breather hole, if you can see. It's just got a line that goes, the slit that goes from the tip right down into below here. Very plain, no ostentation. It is just what it is, a workhorse of a nib. And it flexes out really wide. You'll see that more in the writing sample. And those are the parts of the pen. Okay, so let's get to the ratings. For design, I rate this pen a 4. It's a nice shape, color I really like, clip, really interesting. I like the stylized whale, and the nib, interesting to look at. But the main reason why the design rating is so high is because it's been designed to be maintained, taken apart, and played with by the user. And if that was the design going in, they did a great job because you could do all those things. So design gets a 4. For comfort, gets a 4 again. Really comfortable to hold. The size is great. It's a nice big pen, but it's not too heavy. Fits unposted in your hand. You can post it. I never would. That is kind of just dumb. It's really big. But you can do it if you want. So comfort, I give it a 4. Nice. And then for writing experience, like I said before, I can only rate the pen that I have. My pen wrote. I was happy with it. It flexes when I want to flex. I can still write a very fine line without it, and it's not super scratchy. There's feedback, of course, because it's very fine and it's got a different kind of tipping on it, but it is not unpleasant to write with. So, yeah, so the writing experience is a 4. And, you know, it flexes. It's not a vintage flex, but nobody's making pens at vintage flex anymore. This is as good as you're going to get, and it's pretty good. This doesn't really fit into anything else, but I guess I would mention the smell. Yeah, there it is. Noodler's pens have a specific smell. I believe it's a product of the plastic that you use, and it's really hard to put in words. A lot of people hate the smell. I don't mind it, but the reason I don't mind it is because I like the pen, I think. If this pen wrote terribly in a smell like that, I would probably be kind of annoyed. That being said, the smell does fade. I almost don't smell it at all on the outside. You can smell it inside still. Or maybe when your hand warms it up a bit, then you smell a bit more. But what can I say? I don't mind it. So, writing samples next, and then we're done. Okay, writing sample. This pen is, of course, Noodler's Ahab. Flex nib. The ink is Patchy Sunset, my favorite ink right now. Great shading, and you're going to see that in this writing sample when I use this pen. So, let's do some writing. And you'll notice it writes with a fine line. And so, with no pressure, which I'm going to do here, just to kind of show you that. Yar. Shouted Captain Ahab. Thar she blows. Now, I probably should have read a little bit Moby Dick and come up with maybe some quote or something to write out. I didn't do that, so I'm just assuming that Captain Ahab at some point shouted, "Yar, there she blows." Maybe he didn't. And the whale Moby Dick wrecked up the ship. Taught us all about hubris. So as you can see, no skips, nice fine line that's without any pressure. And this actually writes really well. There's some feedback because of the nature of this nib, but it's not so bad it's unpleasant. I've written with this pen for long periods of time and didn't have any problems. See if the feed will keep up when I write quickly. So as you can see, no skips, kept up really nicely when I was scribbling down there. It just kind of writes really nicely, especially considering. Now I will say that what I have done is this nib and feed are friction fit in. I've pulled them out and I've actually carved the channel on the ebonite feed, which you can only do in ebonite. I carved some of these air fins on the side to increase ink flow for drawing and for flexing. Speaking of flexing, does this pen flex? It says it does. Does it actually? Let's see. There's no pressure. There's some pressure. Some more pressure. More pressure. And there's max pressure. Maybe even a little more than that. Compared to no pressure. That is a big increase. That is very flexy. You kind of have to make sure you're going the right speed and the right pressure. If you go too fast, it'll railroad. And let's see if I can get derailed. And now, of course, it won't. There it goes. They are railroaded. So I went too fast for the feed to keep up. But really, no pen is going to let you go full speed. Now I have railroaded. I have to move some ink into the feed. Get it right in again. That's just because of what I did there. If you go too slow, it'll do the same thing because you'll break the tension between the two tines and the ink will stop flowing. Let's try writing something. Oh, now I'm railroading again. This pen requires a certain specific touch to make it go. Yes, there we go. My name. Now I was about to blur out a bunch of ink because of the way I was shaking it. That also happens sometimes. You can kind of see it coming because it'll start getting really dark. There we go. Now we got it flowing nice. There we go. So that is how that looks. And you go from very fine to very thick. Coloring? Now this is with no pressure. Just want to show you that this pen writes very wetly, especially after the modification I did. So I'll keep talking for a couple minutes, blah 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 blah. There you go. Now doodling, I'll do a quick doodle. I have another video called Drawing with the Noodler's Ahab, where I draw a full picture. I do talk for a long time and it's a long video and I'm sorry. It was the first drawing video I did, but it exists, and if you want to check it out you can. Let's just draw kind of a troll looking guy. Give him some horns. And like I said in that video, this is actually kind of my go-to drawing pen. Not necessarily when it has this ink in it, because this is interesting ink, but I like to draw with black ink in it. But I'm just not drawing anything right now, and I want to show you the shading capabilities of this pen, which you can see here. Or the shading capabilities of this ink in this pen. So, that is the Noodler's Ahab. So, can I just say thanks. Thanks for watching.